I think most people would say we need fewer, millionaires and billionaires shaping all of our elections. We want we the people to shape our elections, not he the people.
This amendment is meant specifically to reverse Citizens United. And if you're not on board with that, you sign off right now. All right.
Are you talking to me?
That's it. Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Blue Sedition podcast. We were away for a week, but now we're back. I'm Nate Brady alongside my co-host, Mike
I'm
Smith.
Mike Smith, everybody. How you doing today? We are happy to be back, and we look forward to talking to you and
Why are you talking
getting
like
the
that?
news.
Why are you talking like that? Well, you're too excited for this.
I'm excited to be back. I just mean that we we didn't do an episode last week, and
we were away. We were away on work. We had a work sabbatical. We couldn't miss it. It was hard to break away. But now we're back. We're back and better than ever, frankly. Right? Yeah. Okay. If by better I mean shit still sucks, then yes, better. What we're gonna do today is I couldn't sleep last night. And as you do when you can't sleep, I'm scrolling, I'm reading, I'm doing whatever. And and we'll save it for later. But I was, of course, reading about the Constitution and all the amendments, because why wouldn't you do that at 3:00 in the morning? And then I took out my notepad and I wrote down, I actually wrote down 6, I think, amendments that I'm calling like my Bill of Rights, the Blue Sedition Bill of Rights, that I think that we could come together and we could come together and get these ratified. I think these could get ratified. I think the people could come to. We'll get to that. But first, let's do some current events. Let's discuss what's been going on this past week. What's going on?
I got one for you. I got one for you.
I have some lined up. But you have. Is this
breaking
news?
It's breaking news.
All right.
As of like 2 hours ago.
Okay. I haven't seen it then.
You mentioned Luigi. Obviously, the shooter. Yeah. New York State is considering creating a special hotline exclusively for CEOs to report perceived threats, CNN reported this morning.
No, shut up. Shut up.
I want everybody to know, if you're listening,
there's no way
you're watching. I stopped Nate prior to hitting play, or hitting record rather. I said, I need to double check this before I go on the pod with it. But yeah, it's from CNN this morning. Apparently they're considering it. It's not underway yet or anything, but apparently Kathy Hochul threw it out there. Is something that they're considering.
All right, let's hear this. I just found this. This is Ken Klippenstein's Substack. Let's see what we got going on here.
Let's go now to the latest in the fallout from the murder investigation of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. The office of New York Governor Kathy Hochul is convening a safety summit tomorrow between nervous business leaders and law enforcement. CNN has learned the safety concerns among executives are so widespread, New York State may create a special hotline just for CEOs to call in threats.
Did you see her face when she got to hotline on the teleprompter? She was like, special hotline.
Gotta put my CEO on it.
Those are professionals. She delivered that without just erupting into laughter, which I would have done on live.
Wow. Are business leaders scared?
Certain business leaders are scared.
Certain business.
That's definitely something. It feels
like
true.
This isn't like the CEO of Reebok is going to be calling this hotline. Right. I feel like,
and I think that the problem that you have with other CEOs is even like the evil ones. When you get down to the bottom, like Bezos, take Bezos as an example.
Bezos.
I think he's an evil CEO, and I don't think that's really well disputed.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I still buy shit on Amazon. I can't stop. It's the easiest way to purchase things, and they make it so convenient, and everything's cheap.
And so a lot of people can't stop. And people in my family, my close family, work for Amazon. and Amazon creates a lot of jobs. However, the working conditions and et cetera, and several bad practices. I mean, yeah, we would. I'd break Amazon down, with a sledgehammer if I could. If it wouldn't.
Well, my
hurt
point is
people,
that as consumers and people just generally, we see, I think, that evil, and we go, I'm personally willing to put up with that given how much I enjoy the product or the whatever the consumer, right? But then you go to healthcare and people are like, they're evil at the top and I hate the product that I have to buy.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I see that. I totally get what you're saying there. I mean, I honestly, every time I buy something on Amazon, which if you're going to do it from smile.amazon.com, help fund your favorite nonprofit, I still die a little inside. I mean, that's probably why I'm mostly dead. But
yes,
yeah,
well, that and a lot of other reasons. But I mean, I agree. But at the end of the day, the American people are sort of okay with that. I think they're like, yeah, it's kind of evil, but also, I got that Christmas gift for grandma on here and it's going to be here tomorrow and I can wrap it and blah, blah, blah. So it's like, kind of need that evil.
But let me ask you this. If Bezos got Luigi'd, do you think people would have the same reaction as they had? No.
I think people would be more upset about it. I think I know, and that seems weird because you're like, Bezos is. I mean, I don't think Bezos is a good guy, but I think that a lot of Americans would be like, oh my God, they killed him. What's next? Who's going to be blah, blah, blah? And they're not going to be talking like, well, he runs an evil corporation that's evil, which is what they're doing with this guy.
I don't. Maybe you're right, and I would like to. Well, I don't know. I don't know how I feel. I mean, what's worse? I mean,
you and I know this, but we talk to people all the time, at work and at social gatherings and things like that. And every person that I have talked to, probably you too, has some healthcare story where their health insurance just dicked around
totally
with
right.
them for much too long, and they're pissed off about it, and they never, ever, ever are going to forget it.
I mean, you listen. Full disclosure. Like, I walked into with Mike. Mike actually had to take me because I thought I was having a heart attack. It was anxiety, a whole list of other health issues that have still resolving, and my insurance company is not helping with that. But they took a look at my insurance and said, sorry, bud, we don't accept you. Good luck down the street. And it's like,
they wouldn't even, they didn't even ask you, like, do you want to pay out of pocket? They were just like, no, you just go somewhere else.
They were like, beat it. And I'm like, ah! And they're like, that, sorry. And so I could have died because my particular health insurance wasn't covered in the ER, or not the ER. It was the emergency clinic that I first stopped in. I mean, I could have died on my way to the second place.
Right.
It's just unbelievable.
And so that's all I'm saying is that, if you had to, if I'm not saying that we condone this or anything, but if one of the CEOs, Amazon, or the CEO are
unalived,
our health insurance, was unalived in that way,
right?
Who would you pick as the better one to remain alive?
Yeah. Okay. I don't think
I think that a lot of Americans are like, yeah, I can understand that, but Bezos, I'm not gonna. I don't know. I just found that interesting,
okay.
and I think that it's hilarious that they would even consider this hotline, because are there enough CEOs who are like, oh my God, I'm gonna get gunned down in the street?
So I think this is insane, but at the same time, I am glad that CEOs are thinking about the consequences of their actions.
That is a positive.
It seemed to have sparked some flame under Blue Cross Blue Shield, as we talked about in the last episode, and we'll see what kind of effect that has. But certainly, it has created an effect that CEOs are scared. But what I don't want people to be scared. I want people to be taken care of. I mean, that's all I want. But that means everybody, not four guys at the top. That means millions of people on the other side not being afraid to get that phone call or that letter that says denied across the top of it, you know?
Well, in this society in our country where Obamacare mandated that everybody has health insurance that you pay for to try and lower the cost of blah 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 blah. How do you provide feedback into that system? You think of like competition on a marketing level, like, okay, I don't have to buy from Amazon. Like you said, I can go down the street and buy from a store, or I can buy from like a mom and pop retailer online, or I can go on Etsy and have somebody build it for me. And then I know at least my money's going to, a better cause in my view. Right. But if I have to pick between, Blue Cross and Aetna and like, I don't have a lot of market mobility to try and fight against any of those practices.
Right. Yeah.
So what do we do? I think that's the big question, is like, people are all frustrated with their insurance and there's not another answer. And Luigi just was spitballing, and he was like, what about this for an answer? What if we put some stress on the system?
He said, hey,
Hey,
I got an idea.
yeah.
And actually,
we do not condone his actions.
Right.
Interesting discussion of topic.
Sure. I don't condone his actions. All right. So we are going to move on to, let's see. We got some more news. What else we got? We have, this is unbelievable. This is just unbelievable. ABC has settled with Donald Trump in the defamation case, where, the president has said he was soon to be president-elect, fuckface, whatever you call him, has said that he was defamed because he George Stephanopoulos said that he raped Jean Carroll, which he did do. Come get me. I'm not going to fucking donate $15 million to your stupid library. So I guess after, the much discussion, they decided, here's what we're going to do. ABC said we'll agree to pay $15 million to Trump's future presidential library. I don't know what this fucking thing is supposed to be. Trump doesn't read. Like, what is that even?
No, I know, but it's just a settlement, right? They just agreed to a settlement to end the lawsuit.
Exactly.
Is that not just a shakedown? Because it seems like it's just a shakedown.
Oh, I don't know, because I'm not sure that that they would be awarded, that Trump would be awarded 15 million or more, if this were actually go through a trial. But the problem is that he would be the president of the United States, and it's kind of hard to rule against the president of the United States, it seems, as we're seeing all of these media companies like ABC start to bend the knee a little bit.
But they wouldn't you be able? Okay, I know neither of us are legal scholars in any real sense, but if they made the argument that a sitting president can't be tried for anything while he's in office, then certainly you could have made the same argument from the other side of, well, let's push this defamation lawsuit off to the point where he is no longer the president, because it will interfere with his day-to-day. And so, I mean, ABC is ultimately owned by Disney. They must have had a cost benefit analysis done where they said 15 million is going to be less in both dollars and PR and time than the actual cost of going through the motions and winning this lawsuit.
Right.
Even if you could win this lawsuit, which you might not have been able to do. Even though factually you were not committing defamation.
So I like your idea of maybe a sitting president also shouldn't be able to, or president-elect shouldn't be able to just start suing everybody and everything. But yet now he's threatening to sue an Iowa pollster who annoyed him. I mean, he's threatening to sue. You remember the poll that came out that showed Harris winning Iowa by 4 or 5 points.
Yeah. 3 points or something.
Yeah. He's threatening now to sue that pollster for I don't know. I mean, what? What?
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, for what? This is election interference or something? I mean, uh this is going to get thrown out, right?
I would have to imagine. I don't even think it would get filed unless he could actually name something that happened.
I mean, yeah. I mean,
Like, what's the complaint?
I don't know what
They
the
ran a
complaint is.
poll.
That
There's
it,
no good.
yeah. I mean, is the complaint that it was trying to sway the election in some way? I mean,
Oh,
isn't
but they have. I mean, that gets thrown out on its face when you just show the poll numbers. You're like, here's the poll. Here are the
right?
numbers.
Yeah.
I have the evidence, and here's discovery. And I don't. I mean, my lawyer is one of those, cheapo lawyers because I don't need to actually try this case.
And then what does that mean? Can Harris sue all the polls in the other direction where she didn't lose by as much as the polls said she would lose
I mean,
by?
Trump has always been bluster before
Yeah,
substance
he's
anyway.
he's
So
he's always been all about litigation with him, and as is the case with rich people like this. They try and bully people with their money. They try to make you afraid to say anything negative about them, and that's certainly, I think, if we go back to the ABC story for a second, I think this kind of thing is pretty scary because what does this mean? Not that most media companies aren't already bending the knee, but now you see this and you're a news organization, even, maybe you're a smaller news organization. Are you going to be as quick to say something negative about the president?
you're definitely not going to print lies, but if you're a
Well,
newspaper, then hopefully you're not doing that anyway.
sure.
I think that what you're really going to have trouble doing is sourcing articles of substance. So you imagine a situation arises where you have two or three people willing to speak on the condition of anonymity on this story that's important. Perhaps, it's corruption or whatever. And your editor might be thinking, I can't run this story with three credible anonymous sources because we'll get sued into oblivion. And it's just that threat looming over your heads that would, if nothing else, give pause to, should we just not run this story that we believe to be true? And that's the one of the tenets of free speech in America. That's the free press. And if you can't get news stories out there that way, then it's over.
I know.
Free press is dead.
I mean, nobody was up in arms except for maybe Fox News when Dominion came at them with that defamation lawsuit because they were literally lying. I mean, everybody knew they were lying about it. Situation like this is a little bit different. It's a lot scarier. All the other news.
Well, in this, like, on its face, it's defensible.
Right.
If I'm to say nothing about Disney, if I'm ABC, I'm like, well, this is a slam dunk. He said on the air that he was found liable of rape, and he was technically found liable of sexual assault, and then that same judge later said that meant rape in this case.
Now,
So,
there's this line here where Kaplan noted that the definition of rape was far narrower than how rape is defined in common modern parlance.
right.
But, so, I mean,
there's like a legal argument of like legal gotchas of he didn't commit like rape under the law in the state of New York, so they call it sexual assault. But like people by and large refer to what he did as rape. And so I think that there's at least a simple argument to make there of like, we're using it in the common vernacular. And if you don't like that, we're not defaming you. It is widely understood as to be that's what it means.
it's
I don't know. It seems like such an easy case to, at the very least, get thrown out on technicalities.
Yeah, and that's what I would say.
Why pay?
Why,
I don't
why
understand
pay?
it.
Why pay?
And the answer is, I'll tell you why pay. The answer is just because Disney has a long history of working with Republicans to make a lot of money. And they expect that if they just give him what he wants, he'll go away, and then they can get back to business as usual and make even more money.
Well, probably. I mean, you got to remember that Disney and Ron DeSantis have been battling for a while in Florida. So I'm not sure, but that's obviously what it is. I mean, you have a guy in Trump who is an authoritarian, who is going to come into office. He's going to do everything he can to like take ABC's license away or whatever it is.
Right,
so,
right.
So, you know, bend the knee right now, and maybe he'll just ignore you for a little while and go after pollsters and whatever else he goes after.
Notice I think he's only going to be doing these things into the days leading up to inauguration, because once he's an actual president again, he has so much more stuff to do that he can't just be like starting litigations that are not related at all. His numbers would decline so much. Maybe he doesn't care, but I think that he's going to be busy trying to enact his policies, like, detaining and deporting every person in America.
Sure. I mean, it's going to be really interesting.
Who's ever said a mean thing about him?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting if the pollster lawsuit comes to anything, because then suddenly you're going to see his approval numbers on these aggregate sites like Real Clear Politics, suddenly are Real Clear Polls now. Suddenly, their his approval rating is going to be a lot higher, because people are going to be afraid to show polls that have him with a lower approval rating, and it's
I don't
stupid.
know that. And I think that a lot of, not Fox obviously, but a lot of news agencies make a lot of money, especially the counter arguers like your MSNBCs and Politico and them. They make a lot of money running bad press about the president.
Oh, sure.
They did that against Biden. That's how they made all that. They did it against Trump the first time. They were like, look how bad he is. Look how disapproval he is. Look at these pictures of him being an idiot. Like they love that. So I don't think you're going to have any problem seeing those.
Okay. Let's go. Let's keep going here. I got one more stupid thing. I mean, I don't know if you have anything else for me. I just saw that Devin Nunes was picked by Trump to lead his intelligence advisory board.
What? Didn't he run like Truth Social or something?
He still does. He still does. Now, the Intelligence Advisory Board, I think, is pretty common for presidents, and they're usually made up of, citizens outside of the federal government. So he is still supposedly going to serve as CEO of Truth Social, which I don't know. That's still a completely failed business, right? I mean, especially like now that X, the everything. The Nazi app is like booming for the right wingers. Why, as a Truth Social person, which I think a lot of people went to Truth Social because they believed X to be too liberal, Twitter at the time to be too liberal. Why would you be on both, right? Like, you just leave one of them.
I don't know. I don't personally understand it. I left Twitter for Blue Sky because of that, the perceived problems that I have politically with that. And also I don't like Musk. But I'm not on another social media platform. I don't need Facebook. I don't have Threads. You know what I mean?
Well, Threads is fucking stupid. No, like, I'm sorry if you're listening to this and you use Threads.
There are people who are on Threads and Twitter and probably Blue Sky too. And right? Am I wrong?
No, it's true. It's true. There are people that are on all of them, but like Threads, I don't even know what the hell's going on over there. I try to click on something. I feel like an old man. Maybe it is. I'm just an old man. I'm like, what the fuck is happening in this app? It doesn't make any sense. Anyway, if you're on Threads, maybe tell me I'm wrong. Tell me that place isn't a dumpster fire. Okay.
Yeah, I think my history lesson is probably in order, but I think that Threads sort of became a thing during the decline of Twitter, like the initial decline of Twitter, when Blue Sky was still very beta, like invite code only, and I didn't have one. And
yeah. You're right.
So I felt like it was like another microblogging site run by Facebook, but.
Well, no, I think that Zuckerberg always wanted to challenge Twitter, and that was his way of doing it, And for some reason they keep every decision they make is wrong, and the UI is terrible. Clicking into Threads doesn't make any sense. It's literally called Threads, and you can't follow a fucking thread on there. Like, you cannot figure out where the replies start and other threads begin. It's ridiculous. So anyway. Let's get to the meat of it. We're already 25 minutes into just going over a few stories. I have, like I said, I had fever dreams last night, and I woke up and I was starting to jot things down, and I made it a little bit clearer now. But I have what I think are 6 amendments that if you package together, so like the Bill of Rights, right, was 10 additional amendments to the Constitution, which all kind of worked together. They were a lot about the government overreach and things like that they were able to group together and get ratified. I think that I have a group of amendments that are what I think would be wildly popular. And I think that we are at a point in time, and it might be a very, very brief blip, where some of the right and the left are like, yeah, what the fuck is happening here, right? And we have a chance to say to these people, you know what? This clearly isn't working. We have a chance to be heroes here. Like you said, I think we were talking about it before. I was telling you what I wanted to do on the episode today, and you said, the last amendment was ratified in like 1992 when it was fucking stupid, right? And it's been what is that? What's math? 30 something years?
Yeah, 32, almost 3 years.
Right. So I think it's high time, and I think we can package this group that I have together.
Okay.
And say, and get this ratified. You need what is it? It's the proposal. You need something like 34. You need 34 of the 50 states to call a convention, and then get it ratified, you need 38 of the 50 states to ratify.
That's if you go with the constitutional convention method. There's also amending the Constitution via legislation, which you can do by getting two-thirds of the House and Senate, and then it has to get
But then it has to get ratified still by.
It has to get ratified still by 38 of the states.
Yeah. So hear me out, folks. We can do this. We can beat them. All right. So I'm going to give you in no particular order. This to me doesn't mean. In fact, maybe I'll give you the ones that I think are just does in this, because I had 6 and I was like, this is just obvious in my opinion. And then. And fight me on these if you want. But I will say I did not include abortion. I think that's a separate thing that we still need to tackle. I think needs to be codified.
Right.
And I did not talk about race, although you can argue there's some racial equality things kind of being mentioned in here, or trans rights or things like that, because I think though I believe in all of those things, and I think all of those things need to be tackled as separate issues, I think it's a lot harder to get the majority of people to rally behind that to get certain
you do need a very clear message to gather this coalition and get the support that would be required to have that kind of universal acceptance.
So I'm going to give you the first two, which kind of go hand in hand together. I wrote them separately, but I think that they could be one if you worded it all together. By the way, I'm not writing these like fucking constitutional amendments. I didn't ask the AI to give me like, write this as, whatever. These are
Pretend you're Thomas Jefferson.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't do any of that. So here's my first amendment. Very clear. Digital privacy amendment. This is basically just like, your regular search and seizure amendments, where it said the purpose is to protect citizens' digital privacy rights, the right to secure their digital communications, which means the right to use encrypted applications, protect their data and protect their online activity against unreasonable search, seizure, and surveillance, and it shall not be violated. Warrants for digital searches must be based on probable cause. I think this is something where everybody would go, especially because most everybody is online now. They would go, yeah. So this is like my hook. They're like, okay, I'm listening. Like who doesn't disagree with this?
I think,
or who does disagree with this?
I think that there might be pushback from people who suggest that is like an additional carve out for something that already exists in the Constitution.
Sure. And I'm okay with that. In fact, the next thing, like I said, could be mixed in with this, but it's becoming more of a thing.
I think sorry, I was just going to say, I think that like the fourth covers that. I'm not a legal scholar, but the fourth doesn't call out anything specific aside from property,
And and if you look at the amendments in the Constitution, you go through all 27 of them, you'll see that there are later amendments that more clearly kind of call out things that were in earlier.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean,
Um,
because of course the only way to change an amendment is with an amendment. So I
Right.
understand that.
And
But I wonder, it'd be funny if you could like get this in front of, a sitting SCOTUS member and be like, is digital property property?
well, that's
Like,
the thing.
that's an interesting idea.
That's the thing is I feel like the fourth could, be subject to whatever interpretation of this, especially this current SCOTUS.
Right.
And
Did the founders mean that your
they-
apes were your property, even if you
Yeah.
gave them the slurp juice in the first 24 hours?
There you go. You get it. You get it. So I feel like it needs to be called out. Okay.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
again, this is just my hook. And here's the second one, which maybe we could be wrapped in or whatever. I call this one the Artificial Intelligence and Automation Rights Amendment.
Oh,
and I feel like
God.
this one would definitely be a hook for people, but it's basically to address the societal and economic impacts of artificial intelligence and automation. So my thing here is that, and all of this requires like the federal government or Congress to do something, as a lot of amendments do. But in this,
Yeah.
I write that the federal government shall ensure the adoption of artificial intelligence automated that the adoption of AI and automation technologies does not infringe upon human dignity, employment opportunities, or economic equality. And that, just transparency in AI decision making and protections against algorithmic discrimination. So you can argue that there's some, racial undertone there. Thoughts?
I don't have a lot to say on this, actually. I think what you're saying like plain sense to me. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think that there's any inherent. Okay, well, there's a lot that we can say about AI, obviously, and you're proposing an amendment that enshrines protection of people over AI, ostensibly. Is that the intent of this amendment?
Exactly. That AI doesn't infringe upon your personal liberties, etc.
And to that extent, I think most people will agree that that they think it's a sensible thing. Where I think it gets muddy is in like where you talk about
employment opportunities.
Attaining or retaining a job that may be, deemed non-essential after some adaptation of AI takes over. And I think that one is much less clear. I think that there are some jobs that AI suits to particularly well, and the people are going to lose jobs over them.
Oh, sure. I mean, people they have lost jobs in the past. At like the horse and buggy industry ain't doing so well these days.
Right? Exactly. It's like there was a thriving, economy of buggy production and tools and maintenance and all this other stuff. It's like the coming electrification of vehicles. Well, there's a gasoline economy that exists currently that we are hopefully phasing out in phase of this thing. And there will be people who will say like, well, what about the people who work for the gas companies? And I go, I understand that pain.
Right.
I certainly empathize with the people who will no longer have those jobs.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I'm not going to get on board with like an amendment saying that there's going to be a gasoline industry.
No. I agree. I agree with you. So you're right. That needs some clarification. I'm not sure exactly what that. I mean, again, I also wrote this at 3 a.m. I'm not sure what I really mean by employment opportunities, but it's just following that line upon you're not going to infringe upon human dignity. I'll leave it up to the founders. What did they mean by? Oh wait, in that case, it's me. I don't know. So it's one that can be written better. But again, these are just my, initial thoughts. Now let's write them a little bit deeper down the road. Okay. So I've got 4 left.
I just really quickly.
Far,
I don't think that I've heard a slam dunk amendment yet.
You don't think those two are slam dunks?
I think that they would have like some public approval, but I don't think they're going to have enough public approval to get through anything.
You don't
So like,
think
I just don't. I don't.
you don't think that they
people-
have 2/3 public approval? I mean, because we haven't even
Correct.
talked about healthcare yet, and that does.
Well, but that's the other thing, is that you need to get a coalition behind it. We
Right.
haven't had anybody speaking, except for Bernie Sanders, speaking to a need to remedy the healthcare industry. And Bernie Sanders is not going to be around forever. So like, who's the next one who's going to be the mouthpiece and rally the people?
We're doing it. We're gonna do it. We're gonna help.
Blue
Okay.
Sedition? Oh, okay.
All right. So let's go. Let's keep going. Now, if you didn't think those two were slam dunks, which I think digital privacy is a slam dunk. If that was a bipartisan thing that Congress came up with in the House of Representatives today, and they got their 2/3 vote, who's arguing with that?
But the other thing is that they don't have the impact that I think that you would need for an amendment. Like, it doesn't.
The right to digital privacy, I think, is almost as important as free speech.
I don't disagree with that. But what I'll say is that I don't think that ordinary Americans care as much.
Maybe.
You know what I mean?
You could be right.
We're in this quagmire currently where people are just handing out their digital information to anyone and
Oh, I know.
everyone.
Sure, I'm one of those people. I mean, I work in
Right.
tech, and I have to almost, like, I am basically, fully online. But
And so, like, would it be great if there were protections? Yes, but then, I mean,
okay,
half of the companies
I
we
get what you're
use-
saying. It's like,
Okay.
whatever. But okay. Let's keep going. Okay.
Yeah.
Here's the last of, I think, my what I thought were my slam dunks.
Okay.
This is the Congressional Term Limits Amendment.
Yeah.
and the purpose.
I mean,
Yeah.
400 electoral votes, just
Done.
easy.
Right.
Done.
It'll be my initial thing is the purpose is to impose term limits on members of Congress to encourage new leadership and reduce entrenched power. No person shall serve more than 12 years in the United States Congress, consisting of no more than 6 terms in the House of Representatives and 2 terms in the Senate.
But I can do 6 of that and then 2 of the other.
It starts with 12 years in the United States Congress.
Mhm.
So, I mean, it depends on how it's written. I think
They're going to
12
be
years is
arguing
enough.
about this amendment in 100 years, saying that that's not what you meant. So
So
you better write it down right.
Be very clear. Total of 12 years, consecutive or non-consecutive. You can only serve a total of 12 years in the United States Congress. So whether that's 2 terms in the Senate or 6 terms in the House or a combination thereof, a decade and a half of you is enough. That's enough. Okay. To me, that's a slam dunk. You said it. Maybe that should be my hook. Maybe that should be the hook.
I think
because that's 400. Let's ship it. 538, baby.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that term limits is definitely something that people want right now, especially young people. I mean, they see Pelosi, they see Mitch McConnell, they see these guys who have been in Congress for 20, 30 years, and both sides hate the other side, and it's always the old guard that they hate the most. I'm not a legal scholar. I'm not a political scientist either, and so I can't really speak intelligently to, what was the reasoning the founders had for not imposing term limits there, but specifically imposing term limits elsewhere. Like, what's the reasoning behind that? And I've heard a lot of arguments for why there should not or should be term limits on members of the House or senators specifically, or both. Or I don't think I've ever been solidly convinced, other than out of sheer spite, where I'm like, man, McConnell should have been out of office 30 years ago.
Right.
That should have just been an easy
one. Well, all I know is that I don't care.
Somebody else terrible in place.
Yeah.
Make them vote. I think that's the other thing, is that there's definitely a contingent of voters who are like, you guys don't do anything except make money from campaigning.
Right.
And then you don't do your jobs, and you get reelected on it.
Right. So yeah, I don't care what the founding fathers thought about what their reasons were for one or the other. The good thing about the amendment ratification process, right, is it doesn't get in front of the Supreme Court. It doesn't even get president can't even veto it.
Right.
If it gets ratified by the states, it becomes law, and then SCOTUS can now you'll have to deal with that because that's in the law books.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's
okay.
hard to rule something unconstitutional when it's the Constitution.
Boom. All right.
So
So let's go. Okay. That was the first half of what I felt were my easy ones. Now, well, actually, this next one, I'm gonna move this one up because I think this one is also a fairly easy one,
okay.
in my opinion. And maybe this is one A and one B. Campaign finance reform amendment.
Man, I love the title.
Okay.
I want to hear what the body is, though.
Okay. To reduce the influence of money in politics and ensure fair democratic representation. So Congress shall enact laws to regulate and limit campaign contributions and expenditures in federal elections. Corporations, unions, and other non-natural entities shall not be recognized as having the same free speech rights as individuals. Public financing of elections shall be established to ensure all candidates have equitable opportunities to participate.
I understand the sentiment and I agree with it. I think that the challenge is that there's a a line in the sand situation there, right? Because what you're ostensibly saying is that money is not speech, and like at its face, I think that people understand and agree with that. But money speaks really a lot, right? So at some point, if I'm like, I want my money to do the best that it can, and I don't want to give my financial, or I'm sorry, my political donations to someone who might not be the best in the field or whatever, and I'm not politically savvy enough to make that choice. I'd rather donate to a party or a political a PAC, super PAC or otherwise, to move that money on my behalf for my best
I don't
interests.
give a shit about you. How much money do you have that we're talking about here?
No. I'm saying individuals. I'm not
Okay.
saying me, the person. I'm saying any singular person.
Okay.
There are people who would much rather donate politically.
And you still can. I say limit campaign contributions and expenditures. So, whether that's the Bernie Sanders $27, whatever it is, but it's not 225 million or whatever it was that Elon Musk just did through America First Super PAC, right? It's
right. But again, what he did is free speech on his behalf, right? Like he has that money and he should be able to do with it whatever he wants. And it's not an affiliation with Donald Trump that he just got elected, but he definitely wanted that to happen.
Sure, and he can use that 225 million in any other way that he wants to help Donald Trump get elected, other than giving it to his campaign. I mean, you want to build another site, you want to host a show, you want to do whatever. I don't care. It doesn't matter. But your $225 million is buying you speech at a level that I can't compete with.
Right, but he can do that anyway.
Sure,
because he has that money.
So wait. But your argument is he can do that anyway. So let's not limit it in.
No. I'm saying even if you make what is your amendment? What teeth does it have that would keep him from hosting these,
but that shouldn't.
Lottery events where
that to me is a logical
registered
fallacy. You're basically saying just because I can't stop him in other ways doesn't mean we shouldn't try and stop him here. I mean, this still should happen. Okay, if we have a problem with like there is still advertising things that we need to address that SCOTUS incorrectly ruled on, in my opinion, that should be addressed as well. It can't throw everything into this amendment, but this is the start. Will corporations and individuals with ridiculous wealth find ways to get around something like this? Undoubtedly, just like they find ways to get around the other 27.
Well, what is this actually stopping? Because there's already political.
Well, it reverses Citizens United.
Okay, but there's already like political donation caps that you're allowed to give to campaigns per cycle. Like you can't give more than it's like $1,700 or something
Right.
like. What is your amendment changing?
That
'Cause that doesn't
corporations,
change.
unions, and other non-natural entities shall not be recognized as having the same free speech rights as individuals, and that is allowing them to donate an absurd amount of money.
But aren't they still held to that $1,700 number?
No.
I'm missing something
No,
here.
no, they're not.
Why
No.
is a corporation allowed to spend, $1,800 when I'm not allowed to spend more than 1,700?
I mean, it has to do with expenditures. I don't have it in front of me, but we should probably
Okay.
do a whole thing on Citizens United at some point. Or if somebody here wants to, look it up in the comments as I'm pulling it up. There's a lot to read. But
My naive interpretation was one of like what Elon did, which is he's unaffiliated with Donald Trump and he's using his money to host this lottery thing and his own canvassers and his own full phone bankers, and he's doing these things in an attempt to get Donald Trump elected, but he's not donating directly to his campaign and he's not directly
no, I
providing
think they do donate. I think the PAC does have to donate.
a certain amount, but I think it's a legal amount that only the entity can do one time per election cycle. So I think that there's like, but you can still.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's the opposite. It's they're saying that corporations and unions can spend unlimited money on independent expenditures, and that's why I specifically call out expenditures here. So they're not
Okay,
donating.
so that is what I'm talking. So
Yeah.
Elon can spend as much money as he wants, having his
On
lottery
expenditures.
to try and get people to vote.
Yeah,
because that's
political
his expenditure.
ads, etc. So that
Right.
counts as an expenditure for Donald Trump. And that's what Citizens United allowed. They allowed unlimited, corporations and unions are allowed unlimited money on independent, quote unquote, expenditures on
Right.
these types of political ads. So I specifically call that out here.
But so then the argument against what you're proposing, I believe, is that you're denying free speech to wealthy people, right? Because you're going to say you can do whatever you want.
Why are you
but
making
can't.
this argument? Denying free speech to wealthy people?
That's what Citizens United specifically said was what it was, is that you have millions of dollars and you can go and buy advertisements all on your own. You don't work for Donald Trump and you're unaffiliated. You just want him to be president. So you're going to spend millions running ads. And they said, you're an American citizen with free speech, so you can do that. That's
No.
what Citizens
No,
my
Citizens
understanding of
United
Citizens
says
United.
corporations and unions are citizens and can do that. What I'm saying is, first of all, no, you're not. You can't do that. And then rich people, your free speech is the same as everybody else's free speech. How am I taking away a rich person's free speech? I mean, I'm limited. Are you saying my free speech is being taken from me because I'm limited in campaign donations currently? There's a $1,700 cap because I don't.
But
so then the government has to give me a corporation.
You could run a local ad on PBS or whatever, and it would get some viewership, and that's your free speech to do it.
Oh,
you could take out an ad in
These
your
are
local
ridiculous.
paper that is independent from any campaign thing, and say, vote for this guy.
Only if I'm using it. Only if I'm doing it as the guise of under a corporation or a union, not as myself. So I would have to make Nate Brady LLC, but I could do it that way. But otherwise, right now, I cannot. So that means that 300 million Americans would have to have their own corporation in order to spend more than 1,700 or whatever the cap is in order to do what you're suggesting.
All right. I think we're going to need to do more research on this, but it's an interesting idea. I think that most people would be in agreement with, we need to do something about campaign finance. I think that we need campaign finance reform. I think most people would say we need fewer, millionaires and billionaires shaping all of our elections. We want we the people to shape our elections, not he the people.
This amendment is meant specifically to reverse Citizens United. And if you're not on board with that, you sign off right now. All right.
Are you talking to me?
That's it. I've had it with you. All right, I know you're playing devil's advocate to a degree, and I appreciate that. But now you're pissing me off. All right,
That's
go.
good.
Let's
Good.
go. Two more, I think. Okay.
Right.
This next one, I think is, so there's a lot of amendments in the Constitution that are just about strengthening rights. You would say, isn't this already covered by the First Amendment? Isn't this already covered by, you know, the right to a trial amendment, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
So I'm going to hit you with it, and I have some ideas around it that I think would have to be written that I want to float by you. I think this one is going to get some pushback. This is the Voting Rights Protection and Access Amendment.
Okay.
Okay. So there's a couple of things that I want to do with this. So this is the right of every citizen of the United States to vote in federal, state, and local elections, and it shall not be denied or abridged. That means every citizen. It does not mean if you are a dual citizen currently living abroad, which I know most are allowed to vote. It does not mean if you're incarcerated that you can't vote anymore. You are now allowed to vote. It means every citizen of the United States. Okay.
Does it mean children?
No, there will have to be of legal age, you know,
Okay.
refer to whatever amendment and whatever. Every citizen that is of legal voting age, etc. Okay. So also in this, it calls for or it states a federal election holiday, which is the presidential elections and congressional elections at the federal level. It says that doesn't say anything about state elections as a federal holiday, whatever. I mean, it's a state
primarily
holiday
held on the same days anyway.
Yeah, but it does call for federal holiday on the on midterms and, you know, general presidential elections. And then finally, it says that a federal voter ID card shall be issued to all eligible voters for free, and then some other nonsense around what that actually means.
Yeah.
And that is, of course, to skirt around the state's rights of voter ID law. Okay, am I going to write that into am I going to write that into this amendment that you shall not require ID? Well, first of all, there's 50% of the country would just right away not go for that, right?
Yeah.
And then I think that is just like what does that even mean? Putting you cannot ask for ID. Like, how do you even put something like that into an amendment? So this is the federal government must supply eligible voters with a federal voter ID card free of charge that covers being able to vote in federal, state, local elections. And in other words, it's like a driver's license or another ID card where you have to pay for a driver's license because you're getting on the road, etc. But this is something that is given to you as part of your fundamental right for voting and access to voting.
How do you pay for it?
Well, save that for my last one.
Okay.
As I'm sure you already know what I'm building up to.
I don't think voter ID is an important issue. I would be willing to concede a voter ID with some protections to voters, along with what you've mentioned in this amendment.
Okay.
Voter holiday is so silly that it's not already a thing.
Yeah.
I think that everybody can get on board with that. And yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
I think that it's such a you would need to frame it as like a protect American voters' rights or something. Like it would have to be a defense first initiative, because otherwise no one's going to care. You have to remember that a third of the country doesn't vote.
Right. Sure.
So
nobody cares.
So nobody, yeah, that's already, you're missing one of those thirds and you need the other 2/3 to approve it. So it's such a dumb problem. And I agree an amendment would fix it, but you have to get that approval for that. And voter IDs, I don't like government identification cards anyway because of their long history of being used for evil. But yeah,
I mean, and believe me, I'd be happy with leaving the federal voter ID card, issuance out of this. Just the fear of what's happening right now, where
right.
states are trying to suppress, and I think there
Well,
should be
and
text
that's
in
the
here
problem
about,
is that they'll still do that.
yeah, they'll find
What
another
they'll do
way.
is they'll say there was an irregularity on the roll and we had to send you a new card. You should get it the day before the election and make sure you bring it. And then all the mail trucks will be serviced that day and nobody will get them in that particular county. And then you won't have a valid ID and you can't vote.
I mean, yes. I mean, hopefully you're not saying that as an argument against this.
No, I'm saying that
they'll
the
find
voter ID thing doesn't solve anything that people thinks it solves. Like, how, for one, when would you get issued this, right? You still have birthright citizenship, so I guess that means that I have a voter ID now that is associated with me from birth, sort of akin to my social security number, and it uniquely identifies me as a voter in the country. Well, okay, but like, doesn't my social security do that? Doesn't my actual physical address in the country do that already? Like, what is this ID card solving except that when a brown person shows up to vote, he can prove that he's an American? Aside from, here's my driver's license with my, my street address on it, and also I registered with my social security number, which was assigned to me at birth.
But also remember the whole point of these, a lot of the point of these voter ID cards is that, okay, we're targeting, underprivileged people that don't have a driver's license, that can't afford, whatever. And so
if you're born in America, you have a social security number.
Sure,
and
but you can't bring a social security card to in place of an ID in any of the states that currently have voter ID.
Of course not. But my point is that you needed that number to prove that you were an American citizen when you registered to vote. So when you registered to vote at 18 or whenever.
When you register to vote at 18, you should get a voter ID card.
Yeah, but the voter ID is just going to be a duplicate, a different number, obviously, but it's going to be a social security card again.
It's going to be a voter ID photo. So it has your address, it has your photo, it has all of that on it. I mean, otherwise, all they're accepting is your driver's license. But I don't understand what you're so angry about.
I had to register to vote with my address and my social security
number. And that
was
free.
And that was free, but I had to do it when I got my driver's license for my photo ID.
Sure.
So the things that you're all tying into this voter ID card, I've already done.
Why are you mad about this?
Because voter IDs are so stupid.
I agree with you. I'm not sure what your argument is, though. I don't want there to be. So then, then let's change the amendment so that,
you probably would have to have it in there just to get any. I mean, you'd need that for like across the aisle support.
Right.
I understand that, but it'll be like social security numbers. There's going to be rampant fraud from people like losing their voter IDs and somebody voting in their place just because they can. And I don't know. We need to make sure it wouldn't associate you in any other way. Like you go to the hospital, they're not going to be like, now let me see your what's your voter ID so that I can look you up in the government database.
Yeah, right. Sure. They're gonna ask for your insurance card, and if you don't have your insurance card, you're already kicked out of the hospital. So I mean, it's
just a slippery slope that I worry about to the papers please shit of Nazi Germany. Like it's just identifying the wrong people.
I think we both agree we don't want voter ID. So I mean, happy to leave that out. What does that mean? The amendment will say, Congress shall have the authority to enact legislation to prevent voter suppression, gerrymandering, discriminatory voting practices. But what does that mean? Then it's just going to be in front of SCOTUS every single year,
as it is now.
As it is. So, okay, we're going to wrap with the last one.
Give me the last.
And I think you are. Can you guess what the last one is? What have I been saving? What's basically our number one other than campaign finance reform?
Healthcare.
We've been
talking healthcare for the last hour.
the right to healthcare as a human right amendment. What exactly is the body of this text? That's a tough one. But all citizens of the United States shall have the right to access quality healthcare. Not affordable, not affordable healthcare, not whatever, free quality healthcare. Yes, I know who's going to pay for it. Luigi's going to pay for it. Congress shall have the power to enact legislation ensuring healthcare access for all while promoting government cost efficiency and medical innovation.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that obviously, based on what we started with, there's just a huge contingent of people out there who are fed up with the health insurance model. Everyone has this story, or more than one story, of health insurance just being evil for the sake of money, and it's not going to continue well. You're going to have more people in desperate scenarios doing desperate things if there is no change.
Yeah, exactly.
And what you're proposing sounds like a Medicare for all type system, or a single payer that's just otherwise, like, if we trust your doctors and they go through some rigors and things, and we don't deny reasonable claims and things like that. We just will, the American safety net will pay for it, and it'll be an inclusive American citizen thing. Although it doesn't have to be. Other like UK, for instance, you don't have to be a UK citizen to get your hospital stay covered.
But I mean, if you want to go to the CEOs with this one, I mean, why would they care other than the healthcare CEOs? I mean, it's been proven that people who are healthier are more productive at work. They take less sick days. They take less time away from work. I mean, this is a net positive to, unfortunately, capitalism as well, except for the current healthcare, complex. So,
well, not even the healthcare complex. I think that by and large, hospitals and private practitioners and just employees who do the work would accept this with open arms. I think it's health insurance agencies that we need to burn to the ground.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah, and we're only going to hear the argument to the opposite of that, unfortunately. Everybody's going to talk about how efficient the private market is and how government can't run anything and blah, blah, blah. They'll look at the post office as their prime example of this thing loses money all the time and blah, blah, blah. Even though it's widely loved by everybody, the service is great. You can mail something for less than,
Can you explain to me what it means that the post office loses money? No fucking shit, it loses money. It's supposed to. It's not a for-profit business.
Right. I mean, and it doesn't lose money. It uses money.
It uses money.
The military loses tons of money every year.
Now you can certainly argue that it's inefficient, but the problem is what the argument usually is around efficiency is profit. And that just means privatizing the USPS in a way that costs you and I more money so that it's profitable. And now suddenly that's efficiency, and that's just bullshit. So yeah, can the USPS be more efficient? I have no doubt in my mind it could be, but the losing money, give me a break. That's
frankly, they should, if that's their problem, then they should allow for a bigger group of doctors to come together and at the government level work with legislators that say, here are medical things that we need to have written off as, you may not deny this. It cannot be denied. You are going to cover these costs and we will subsidize you for those costs specifically. But again, that wouldn't work because the health insurance industries rely on denials to make profits, like you're saying.
Yeah.
So even that incremental step of being like, no, if this is a life-saving measure, you may not deny it. And so then people wouldn't be afraid of going to the hospital with something that may be life-threatening. And because they're like, well, do I die today or do I die in 10 years because I run out of money?
Right.
Make those decisions easier for people so that they can get the help they need today and they don't get crushed by debt today.
And the amendment, it unfortunately, it can't just be, you get ratified and this thing turns on, right? So it would have to be date of ratification, ages from this age to this age, and then it would incrementally, you know, eventually cover everybody. And maybe I'm not covered by this, but the whole point of this, right, is like, but before I had to take things out going, oh, nobody would be on board with this. But this was like my idea of a Bill of Rights for a better future. And the idea is maybe I don't even benefit from a lot of these, but maybe eventually it turns shit around for the future. I had to take out, like, one of the other things I would have put in would have been climate change. And I think that's the thing we obviously need to consider at a government level, which would get no support from the other side. So,
Right.
you know, these. So that's it. Those were my 6. So I got to ask. We're just over the hour mark now. Did you have any? I know I'm putting you on the spot here. Could you think of anything that you
No,
would add?
let's not. I won't add any amendments
Okay.
today. I think it's an interesting idea.
Okay.
But again, I think, you know, you would require a broad coalition of congressmen to come together and make a concerted push against their own best interests. And I think that that's our biggest problem right now, is that we have these career politicians who don't want to improve a lot of these things because they stand to gain by the status quo.
Right. I think 2 of the 6. I mean, I arguably all the other ones, I mean, unless they're in the direct pocket of the healthcare insurance industry, which they are.
most politicians are taking a lot of lobbying money from
but you know who never talks about campaign finance reform? Basically anybody. You know, you didn't hear Kamala Harris talk about that. You didn't hear Trump talk. Nobody's talking about that.
No, it's almost always the smaller, you know, the darker horses, like even oh, what was that guy's name? He was running in a Democratic primary, and then he became like a Republican or like a weird libertarian.
Oh, a weird libertarian.
Yang, yeah.
Yeah.
Yang did talk about finance reform in some of the early debates in like 2015, 16. But
I'll tell you what's interesting about that. Other than Bernie Sanders, the guys that were talking about campaign finance reform were the guys that probably could have financed their own campaigns. But
that's like the impetus, right?
Yeah,
is that I'm not making enough money to keep this campaign alive, but I have a lot of ideas, I think.
Right.
And so, like, I think that's again, like what I said a minute ago, all of these things are probably standing at odds with our elected officials' best interests.
Right.
And that's one of the problems, is that you do need to get a coalition of most people together to demand them. And we're at such a just terrible impasse politically that no one can agree on anything, even the simple things.
Right.
Like, should people be allowed to vote? And a third of the country doesn't care. A third of the country says yes, and a third says no.
Yeah, I mean, there's a growing coalition of people that think that women shouldn't vote, that we should repeal the 19th. So, unbelievable.
And it's right there where you're like, these are basic things. And if I can't get that coalition to agree on these basic things, how do I move anything? So I don't have any amendments. I will think of some things that maybe we can do. Maybe we can get some sensible discussion on.
I will ask our listeners, if you have something that you think could be a good amendment to the Constitution, drop it in the comments. Shoot us a message on or in the comments on YouTube or on Bluesky. And also, I have another interesting question to ask. I'll see, you can answer it next time or leave it in the comments, and to our listeners too. Of the 27 amendments, and you can't say prohibition, which one would you repeal? All right, it's just a mental exercise. But you can't say prohibition because obviously that was already repealed. So yeah. So leave it in the comments. Don't forget, like and subscribe. That really helps us out. I think we did something really special for me, is we just reached as many subscribers as we have videos. We had 53 subscribers at the start of recording this, with 53 videos. I think that's a really cool metric for a channel, even though we're still super, super small. We've only been doing this for a little while, but a like and subscribe would really help us out. Mike, do you have anything to say before we go?
No, that's it, man.
All right. We'll catch y'all next time.